London in the rain has a strange kind of silence, one that feels older than the buildings themselves. On certain evenings, when the fog slides down the Thames and wraps around the city like a pale ghost, the past feels dangerously close. That was the evening Elara Morgan arrived at Aldenford University. The taxi dropped her near a wrought iron gate that towered over the stone pathway. Carved at the top were the words, "Found it 1821 for those who seek more than knowledge." The words felt unsettling in a beautiful way, as if the place promised discoveries far deeper than books or lectures. Elara stood there for a moment, letting the London drizzle kiss her face. She breathed in the damp scent of old limestone, wet leaves, and something she couldn't quite place a scent, almost like aged paper touched by sorrow. Inside the gates, the campus spread out like a painting. Lanterns flickered along cobblestone paths. Ivy curled around Gothic archways, and the old clock tower chimed with a heavy echo that shook the evening air. She hadn't even taken 5 steps before she felt it. The sensation of being watched, not in a frightening way, more like someone had been waiting for her, someone from the past. Elara made her way through the courtyard, dragging her suitcase behind her, when she noticed a lone figure sitting under the massive oak tree near the fountain. He was sketching, completely unbothered by the rain. A tall, quiet young man with dark hair falling over his forehead and a long charcoal coat that looked straight out of a Victorian portrait. His pencil moved slowly, as if every line he drew held a secret. When he finally lifted his eyes, Elara felt the world pause. His voice was soft, almost melodic. "First night at Aldenford?" Elara blinked, surprised. "Is it that obvious?" He gave a small smile. "No one looks at this place on their first night. They look into it." She looked again at the ancient buildings, the soft mist swirling around the arches, the way the lights glowed like trapped fireflies. He wasn't wrong. "I'm Elara," she said finally. He closed his sketchbook. Adrian. His presence was calm, so calm that Elara felt her heartbeat slow, as if standing next to him somehow softened reality. "Come on," Adrian said, nodding toward a large building. "You shouldn't walk around alone your first night. Aldenford tends to cling to newcomers." Elara laughed nervously, unsure if he was joking, but she followed. He led her toward one of the oldest buildings on campus, the Hawthorne Library, built in 1823, barely lit, with tall Gothic windows and large wooden doors that creaked like they had secrets to confess. Inside, it was warm, soft golden lamps, the smell of dusty parchment and polished oak. Bookshelves towered like silent guardians, but what caught Elara's attention were the portraits, dozens of them, men and women from centuries past. Their eyes painted so vividly it felt like they followed every movement. Adrian stopped at one particular portrait, a woman in a pale blue gown, her expression heartbreakingly sad. "This," he whispered, is the university's greatest mystery. Elara leaned closer. What happened to her? No one knows her name, Adrian said. But the founder, Lord Alistair Hawthorne, built this entire university for her. Elara's breath caught. For her, Adrian nodded. He loved her more than his own life. But she disappeared the night before the opening ceremony, and he never recovered. A quiet shiver ran through Elara. Though the room was warm, what do people think happened to her? She asked. Adrian's voice dropped even lower. Some say she ran away. Some say she was taken. And some say, he glanced at the darkened corridor behind them. She never left. The lamp beside them flickered at that exact moment. Elara stepped back. I'm guessing that's the ghost story they tell. Freshman? Adrian didn't smile. That's the part I wish was true. He led her deeper into the library. They walked past rows of ancient books, leather-bound volumes with gold inscriptions, old maps of London dotted with places that no longer existed. The silence felt almost alive. Elara finally asked, Why were you out there, sketching in the rain? Adrian hesitated. I like the rain. It reminds me that not everything beautiful needs to be touched. Elara studied him. His words felt too heavy for someone his age, too poetic, too sorrow-filled. What were you drawing? He opened the sketchbook. Elara froze. It was her, exactly her, standing at the gates of Aldenford, suitcase in hand, looking at the campus with wide eyes. But how? I just arrived. Adrian closed the book. I know. You know? She repeated, confused. He looked away, his voice tight. Sometimes I draw things before they happen. Elara wasn't sure if he was joking or if she had stepped into something she shouldn't have. You can draw the future, she said, half laughing. Adrian didn't laugh back. He said quietly, I've dreamed about you before you arrived. Elara's chest tightened. You've dreamed about me? He nodded slowly, as if the truth pained him. You were standing in the courtyard, exactly like tonight. And every time I woke up, I felt like I was missing someone I hadn't met yet. Elara felt a warmth in her stomach, an uncomfortable, unexpected pull toward him. But why me? She whispered. Adrian looked at her with an expression soft enough to break bone. Because, he said, you belong to this story more than you know. Adrian guided her toward the back of the library where a locked wooden door stood. On top of it, carved into the arch, were the words, The North Wing closed since 1891. Elara felt the chill instantly. What's in there? She whispered. Adrian stared at the door as if it was staring back. A love story, he said. Then, after a pause, a tragedy. When he turned to leave, Elara touched the doorknob without thinking. It burned her skin. Elara. Adrian grabbed her hand, pulling it back. You must never touch that door. Why? She snapped, shaking. He looked at her with a fear she didn't understand. Because the last person who did never came back out. He walked her back to her dorm as the rain softened into a gentle mist. The lanterns were almost out now, their flames trembling. At the entrance, Adrian paused. "Elara, promise me something." She waited. "If you ever hear knocking coming from the north wing," he swallowed hard. "Promise me you won't answer it." Her heart thudded painfully. "Why would there be knocking?" Adrian's voice came out like a haunted whisper. "Because sometimes the past calls the wrong person." Then he slowly stepped back, disappearing into the fog like a fading memory, leaving Elara alone, with the feeling that she had just stepped into a story written long before she was born. At night, Elara couldn't sleep. Her dorm room at Aldenford University was quiet, far too quiet. The old building creaked like an ancient ship settling in cold waters. Outside, the London rain tapped gently against the window like a patient visitor who refused to leave. Elara lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything Adrian had said about the portraits, about the vanished woman, about the north wing door that burned her hand, and about his dreams of her before they ever met. Nothing made sense yet. Everything felt connected. At 2:17 a.m., Elara finally sat up. Something felt wrong. Not frightening, just deeply wrong. A soft, rhythmic sound drifted through the hallway outside her room. Tap, tap, tap. Elara froze. It wasn't footsteps. It wasn't the building settling. It was a knock. A slow, deliberate knock. Exactly 3 taps, repeated again and again. She wrapped herself in her blanket and listened harder. The sound was distant, but unmistakable. It was coming from inside the library, from the direction of the north wing. Elara whispered to herself. "No," Adrian said. "Don't go." But curiosity is a dangerous thing, especially when the night is quiet and the story is already unfolding around you. Inside the library at 3 a.m., the entire library was dark, except for one lamp glowing faintly on the far side. It flickered exactly like it had earlier when Adrian told her the story of the vanished woman. Elara walked slowly, afraid that even her breath would wake whatever slept in this place. The portraits watched her again with their painted eyes, but tonight they felt different. Their eyes looked almost human wet, glistening, heavy with an emotion too complex for canvas. She whispered, "It's just my imagination, just the dark." But deep inside, she knew it wasn't just the dark. The lamp flickered harder, then the knocking stopped. Silence. A silence so deep that even the air felt still. Elara took a single step forward, and something cold brushed her wrist. She yelped and jumped back. Standing in the dimness, half hidden by shadow, was Adrian. "Elara," he whispered urgently. "What are you doing here?" Her heart pounded violently. "What am I doing?" "Someone is knocking from inside the north wing." Adrian grabbed her shoulders gently but firmly. "Elara, listen to me. You cannot go back there." She stared into his eyes. but his calmness from earlier was gone. He looked terrified. Adrian, I heard it. I know what I heard. His voice dropped to a trembling whisper. I know, because I heard it too. Adrian tightened his grip. Elara, please. You have to leave. But Elara shook her head. No. I need to understand what's happening. Adrian exhaled shakily. Okay, then stay behind me. He led her past the main reading room, past rows of bookshelves, past the tables where he had sketched her just hours before. Soon they were standing in front of the same wooden door. The doorknob glowed faintly, as if heat still pulsed through it. Elara felt a pull in her chest, a strange gravitational force drawing her closer. Do you feel that? She whispered. Adrian swallowed. I knew you would. What is it? He hesitated. Something drawing you, just like it drew her. Elara's blood ran cold. Her? You mean the woman in the portrait? Adrian nodded. I think. His voice quivered. I think you're connected to her. Before Elara could respond, something shifted behind the door. Not a knock this time. A whisper. Soft, but clear. Alistair. Elara felt the sound in her bones. It wasn't a man's voice. It was a woman's, a heartbreakingly sad woman. Adrian stepped backward instantly. Elara, don't answer. Don't even breathe loud. But Elara couldn't move. The voice came again. This time trembling. Alistair, you promised. Elara felt tears prick her eyes, not out of fear, but from the weight of the emotion in the voice. She's crying, Elara whispered. She's crying for someone. Adrian grabbed her hand. Elara, she's not calling for you. Elara turned to him sharply. Then who is she calling? Adrian's voice broke as he answered. Lord Hawthorne, her lost lover. Elara shivered. But he's been dead for 2 centuries. I know, Adrian whispered. That's why she keeps calling. Because she never knew he died. Elara's breath caught. The whisper came again, soft, fragile. Please. Alistair. Open the door. Elara felt her palm move involuntarily, like invisible fingers were pulling her forward. Adrian tugged her back. Elara, stop. She's not calling him anymore. She's calling for anyone who will listen. Elara stared at him. Has she called you before? Adrian looked away, his jaw tight. Yes. Did you answer? His voice was barely audible. No, because she doesn't want help. She wants someone to replace him. Elara's heart slammed in her chest. Replace him. Adrian nodded grimly. She's searching for a soul she can keep. Someone who feels her pain. Someone who reminds her of the life she lost. He looked at Elara with an expression so raw it hurt to see. And I think she chose you. The library grew colder. The portraits seemed to dim around them. Fog began to pool at the bottom of the north wing door. Elara whispered, but why me? Adrian stepped closer, his voice trembling. Because you came here with a heart that's already been hurting. Because this place sensed you the moment you arrived. Because she saw you long before I ever did. Ilara felt her entire body turn cold. Adrian, you said you dreamed of me before I came. Was that really your dream? Adrian closed his eyes. No. Ilara's breath hitched. Then, whose dream was it? He opened his eyes filled with sorrow, fear, and something else. Something she couldn't name. It was hers. She showed me you. She let me see you because she wanted you to come. Ilara stumbled back. Why would she want me? Adrian whispered, because your story isn't beginning here. Ilara, it's repeating. Ilara stood frozen, her heartbeat echoing louder than the storm outside. Adrian's words, your story isn't beginning here. It's repeating. Hung in the air like a shadow, she finally managed to whisper, repeating. What do you mean? Adrian turned away from the north wing door, as if afraid to even look at it. Ilara, the woman in the portrait, she wasn't just Hawthorne's lover. He paused, his breath shaking. She looks exactly like you. Ilara felt the ground tilt beneath her. That's not possible, she whispered, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her own uncertainty. Adrian shook his head softly. I thought I was imagining it too. But the moment you arrived, the resemblance was undeniable. The woman in the portrait, the sadness in her eyes, the longing. Ilara could still picture her clearly. Why would I look like her? Ilara asked, voice trembling. Adrian stepped closer. I think you are connected to her bloodline. Maybe distant, maybe closer, but she feels you. That's why she calls. Ilara's skin prickled. And why do you hear her? She asked. Adrian looked away. His silence was an answer in itself. Adrian. She pressed gently. He finally spoke, voice thin as thread, because I descend from Hawthorne, his great-great-grandson. Ilara inhaled sharply. Of course, that explained the way he seemed woven into the campus, like he belonged to every stone and shadow. That explained why she called for him too, because he carried the founder's blood, the man she waited for, the man who never returned to her. Ilara whispered. So she thinks you're him. Adrian closed his eyes. She thinks everyone who hears her is him. She's been waiting for centuries. The north wing door groaned softly, as if responding to his words. A whisper seeped through the cracks. Alistair, you promised me forever. Ilara stepped closer instinctively, drawn by the sorrow in that voice. Adrian grabbed her arm. She will not let you go if you open that door. Ilara's voice broke. She's in pain. I know, Adrian whispered, but you're alive. And she's not. That difference matters. Ilara turned to him. Then tell me the truth. What happened to her? Adrian took a shaky breath. All the records say she vanished. But the real story, Hawthorne wrote only one line in his journal the night she disappeared. He looked into Ilara's eyes. It said, she died waiting for me. Ilara felt tears form instantly. She died. Thinking he abandoned her? Adrian nodded, and she couldn't accept it. Her longing, the anguish was so strong, it left an imprint on this place, on this corridor, on this door. Alara put a hand over her mouth. That's why she's calling. She's still waiting. Adrian's voice cracked, and she thinks you can take her place. Take her place. Alara whispered. Adrian turned her gently toward the door. Alara. She isn't calling for Hawthorne anymore. She's calling for someone who feels the same emptiness she felt. Alara stiffened. My heart isn't empty. Adrian stepped closer, searching her eyes. No? Then why did you come here all alone, leaving a whole life behind? Why does your sadness sit behind your smile like a shadow no one can name? Alara said, nothing, because he was right. She had come to London to escape a heartbreak she hadn't healed from, a wound she hid so well no one noticed, but somehow Adrian did. He had seen it without her ever saying a word. Suddenly, the air grew colder. The portraits dimmed, the lamps flickered, and the north wing door rattled. Once, twice, a long, trembling whisper seeped through. Please, I don't want to be alone anymore. Alara felt her feet move forward. Adrian lunged and pulled her back. Alara! Don't she's drawing you. Alara's voice trembled. It's not that. I feel like I know her pain. I know you do, Adrian whispered. That's why you must not answer. Alara turned to him, her voice fragile. Then how do we help her? She's been crying for 200 years. Adrian's face softened. We mourn her. We remember her. We accept her story, so she doesn't have to repeat it. Alara blinked. What do you mean? Adrian pointed to the portrait hallway. He whispered, she died feeling forgotten, so let's remember her. Adrian and Alara stood before the portrait of the unnamed woman. Her painted eyes lonely, aching, felt almost human in the dim glow. Alara touched the frame gently. I'm sorry, she whispered, for what you went through, for the love you lost, for the promises that broke. Her voice cracked, a tear sliding down her cheek. You deserved a life. You deserved a future. You deserved someone who didn't leave. As Alara spoke, the air shifted lighter, warmer. For the first time, the sorrow in the woman's eyes seemed to soften. Adrian placed a hand on the portrait. She wasn't forgotten, he whispered. She never was. A faint breath of wind passed through the library, brushing Alara's hair like a gentle touch. Then the knocking stopped. The corridor fell silent, completely silent. Alara exhaled, feeling a weight lift from the room. She's gone, Adrian whispered. Not gone, Alara said softly. At peace. Adrian turned to her, really looked at her. Alara, you saved her. Alara shook her head. We both did. They stood there, inches apart, surrounded by centuries of stories. But this moment felt like the first one written just for them. Adrian's voice softened to a whisper. Maybe some stories repeat, not to hurt us, but to give us a second chance. Alara felt warmth bloom in her chest. Do you think we're one of those stories? She asked quietly. Adrian stepped closer. His voice gentle like the night itself was listening. I think we're the first chapter. Alara smiled. A soft, tired, peaceful smile, the kind she hadn't felt in years, and for the first time since arriving at Aldenford, she didn't feel alone. She felt found. As the rain outside softened into a misty lullaby, Alara and Adrian walked out of the library together. The portraits no longer watched them. The corridors no longer whispered. The north wing door stood still quiet, finally at rest. And under the dim lantern glow, with fog curling softly around their steps, Alara felt something she had not felt in a long, long time. Friends, don't miss the next story. Subscribe now and join the night adventure. Be well. Good night.